Welcome back to Business Talk. Now, this was a TikTok-specific marketing podcast, but the social media landscape has changed. TikTok isn't the only short-form video powerhouse anymore for business owners. So, I'm going to be pivoting this podcast to focus on all platforms that support short-form video content so that you can get an even bigger and better understanding of what is currently working on social media to grow your business. I'm your host, Ossa.AI, and on this podcast, I interview real business owners and entrepreneurs from every industry that are leveraging short-form video to grow their business. You can connect with me across social media at SocialtyPro. Today's episode is sponsored by my company, Syllabi.io. Syllabi is a one-stop shop for video marketing on social media, from finding topics your customers ask online to generating you video scripts, creating AI videos with real clones, and even direct publishing for your social media accounts. You can get started today with a 7-day free trial at Syllabi.io. Let's jump into today's episode. Today's guest is Cole Gonzalez with Ossa.AI. Cole is a TikTok star turned entrepreneur. You might recognize his handle at Cole World with nearly 6 million followers. He's known for his comedy, personality, and relationship videos. Recently, though, he created his own AI startup called Ossa, which helps you make those viral faceless videos that you see on TikTok and across every social media platform. I've had the chance to test it out, and it is awesome. I'm so excited to dive into this. Cole, thank you so much for joining me today, brother.
Austin, it's a pleasure. What's up, everybody listening? Awesome to be here. Love Austin. Love what you're doing. Love Syllabi. This guy knows every single creator in the space. You know, I'm newer to the AI space. And as I go around, I start to see how this man's very well known and well respected. So awesome to be here today. Super excited to talk about whatever it may be in short form content creation, AI. I'm all here for it. I think this is going to be a really good one.
You're too kind, brother. I'm excited to learn from you. So I don't actually know that much about you and your background. What's your origin story, man? How did you get started in creating content?
Yeah, great question. So in order for us to kind of have context, even how we got to Ossa.AI, we have to go back all the way to high school. And that's when I started doing content. Going back, I started off in fitness. That's still a passion of mine, something that I really enjoy. Now that I have a startup, I just work out in my garage because I canceled my gym membership so I could spend more time. I'm sure everybody knows that story, the entrepreneur life, all that stuff. But started off doing just content on my personal Instagram channel. And I have really always just had a passion for content creation. I love being able to create content and evoke emotions in people in the most organic way. I love just giving those emotions through content. It's always been something I really enjoyed. And starting off in the fitness content, I was senior year in high school and I had no experience with content creation. I just loved doing fitness. And I looked up to all these big fitness influencers because I thought that was going to be my life. Anyways, started creating content on Instagram, posting videos when I was a senior in high school. And it actually was not that great. Matter of fact, a lot of people hated on me. A lot of people unfollowed me. So I actually lost followers in the beginning, contrary to belief when you look at me now. And I still remember conversations of my best friend sticking up for me because my old friend group, was hating on me and talking trash. But everybody knows that specific instance when starting on social media. So that's where I started. It was just on Instagram. And it really had no goal. I just wanted to share what I was doing. I loved creating fitness videos, EDM music edits on my phone. I would edit on this little app. Moving out of high school, ended up obviously going to college. And I thought that was going to be my future. And what I found out is when I got there, kind of during that whole summer, I was in sales, door-to-door sales. So I have a background in sales. That's where I started off in business. My father's also in sales, so it definitely rubbed off on me. So I did really well that summer leading into college. Like I was crushing it in sales. I was the #2 rep in the nation. I was 17 years old, which I wasn't supposed to be working there, but they let me work there and I crushed it. And I was like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do, which is a common theme of like me being young and thinking that I had it figured out, which I didn't. So I ended up leaving college 2 days into school. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I dropped out of school the second day of class. I remember sitting in my class, looking around, and I was building these electrical circuits. And I remember I applied to get there, and I'm sure this resonates with some people in the audience. I remember applying to get into college. I did industrial packaging, which I still don't know what that is to this day, just to get into school. And I remember building this electrical circuit and saying out loud, basically, F this, I'm leaving. And I walked out and I never really looked back. And there's no crazy story. During that time, I was still doing some content for fun, had a little bit of traction on Instagram. But I remember my best friend calling me up. His name's Anthony. And he was crushing it on TikTok. He's a music artist, singer, and that was where he got his break. And he's like, yo, bro, him and I played soccer together in high school because I played sports. He calls me, he's like, yo, bro, get on TikTok. I'm like, man, that's so lame, dude. I'm not doing that. This was 5, 6 years ago when it wasn't as cool. It was like right before it was cool. And I started posting fitness content and I started getting traction. And for context, when I left college, I thought I was going to go do sales and that was going to be my future, but it didn't really work out, to be honest. But during that time, I moved over to TikTok and I started gaining traction. Got 10,000 followers, 50,000, and I was posting 6 times a day. I've been talking to Austin about this, and we agree that a lot of social media is just reps. So I ended up posting, 6 times a day for the next 6 to 12 months on TikTok. I'm like, this is fun. I enjoy it. I'm doing some sales. It's going okay. Just trying to figure it out. I had no idea it'd become what it would be. Anyways, doing fitness content for the first couple months. Then I transferred into comedy content. That started hitting 100K followers, 200K followers. Then I ended up getting to 1 million followers over a year or two. And that's when I was like, whoa, like there's something here. And at that point, I didn't even see it as a business. I just enjoyed creating content, quite honestly, because I was still doing the sales thing. And then I hit 1 million followers, met my long distance girlfriend, which you guys probably know me for. You've probably seen my FaceTime videos. If you haven't, you could just look it up, Cole World. So I've done all these videos with my girlfriend, Sid. The first video I posted, I remember waking up the next morning, had like 11 million views. And I skyrocketed like 300,000 views overnight. I'm like, okay, that's it. So, anyways, long story short, I ended up posting content about our relationship, and that really took me from 1 million followers to where I am now. And then I have grown on YouTube to around, I think, 750K, maybe a little bit less, and then Instagram around 300K. But yeah, long story short, started off in high school, didn't really get a lot of gratification from people around me, and I kind of just pushed through it. And there's definitely some things in there that I left out, but it's been a long journey, and it was never really meant to be this. It just so happened too. So
I love that, man. That's an awesome journey, and definitely resonates with so many entrepreneurs that they're faced with different obstacles. That you know, um, is this the right path? Like I didn't go to college. I don't have a college degree. I stumbled into an internship and went from internship to entrepreneurship. So definitely resonate with that. And there's a lot I want to unpack there because you said so many cool things. Let's start with, what was the very first video that really exploded for you online? Was it in the fitness space, or was it that 11 million view video with your girlfriend at the time? Was it just micro growth over time that led to that first million, or was there one video that exploded?
yeah, so I would say I had this one-off video that was a total fluke in the beginning, and it had nothing to do with content. It was this kind of spam video of me throwing a hot dog at my friend, and he ducked around, and it was funny, which is kind of weird. But that was like the first one that hit like 100K, 200K views, which probably played some role of me being like, whoa, you can go viral. I'm going to keep doing this. But I would say when I really was creating content and I focused on the fitness stuff, I couldn't pinpoint exactly when the first really mega video did well, but I do remember I did this TikTok series when I was kind of transitioning into the comedy, more entertainment side of things. And I did this idea of doing a TikTok bachelor series, and this blew up. And that was like my first big blow up. That was around probably 50K, and it took me like 200K. And what that was I know the Bachelor was going on, and I thought to myself, I forget how I got this idea. I think I saw something kind of similar somewhere that sparked the idea to do this Bachelor series. So what I did is basically made this video, put this suit on, and made this pitch to, hey guys, I want to do this TikTok Bachelor series. If you're a girl and you want to be a part of this and you're over 18, drop your Snapchat. And then it went super viral. Everyone's like, whoa, this is such a good idea. I can't wait to follow this. So I did like a series. And that was probably my first like massive break, because that video did a couple million. But I would say the big one was a year and a half to 2 years in, when I had that video go super viral overnight with me and my long distance girlfriend. But during that time, sandwich in between there, I was doing Omegle videos. So I'm sure you guys have seen, if you watch social media, a little bit less popular now, but back in 2019, I have a strong belief that me and my buddy actually started this trend because big TikTokers did it 3, 4 months later. But he actually started it. He would do Omegle videos and do these funny skits, and then we would do them together. It was the best time of my life, and we would do these comedy skits. But I know that was kind of a lot. But to answer your question, there was kind of a one-off video, and then the big break was that first series that I did.
Now, was that all on TikTok, or were you also seeing reciprocal growth on Instagram and any other platforms as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my belief has always been starting off, and this worked for me, is focus on one platform and just get really good at it because a lot of the concepts apply across all the platforms for short form for the most part. And if I could do it well on there, then I could probably grow my other ones. And that's kind of the strategy I took. I just repurposed content and ended up blowing up those platforms. So for me, I really just focused on TikTok for the first 1 or 2 to 3 years. And then once I really understood how those are working, I'm like, okay, well, it's probably similar over here. So I was only focused on TikTok for a long time, just one platform. Me personally, that worked for me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I had a similar path. Like I was all in on TikTok for years and started, even started a TikTok agency and was doing public speaking about TikTok and whatnot. And I was just kind of dumping it on the other platforms a little bit. But yeah, absolutely. You can learn so much from just mastering one platform. And then you can take that and really lean into the finesse and the nuances of other social media platforms as well and leverage what you've learned to grow across. And now you're crushing it on Instagram too, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it worked really well for me. If I just look back at why it worked so well, I think, and this is the advice I give to anyone who's starting who asks me, do I do all the platforms? Do I do one? For me, it's like it's a matter of time. And if it takes me more time, of course you can repurpose content in the beginning. But in the beginning, for me, I was trying to figure out what works. So if I'm to try and grow on 3 platforms, my attention is split 3 ways. So if I take all my attention, just focus on one and creating the best content on that one, like I said, like you probably agree, the same concepts generally apply to all the other platforms. So if you can prove your concept of the content you want to create on one platform, most likely you could carry those over to the others. And it's a matter of attention. And we only have so much, right?
Yeah. 100%. Now, were you monetizing throughout the entire journey, the first couple of years there? Were you a full-time content creator because it was paying so well? Were you working part-time jobs or gigs or anything, or were you just all in on content?
Great question. Yeah, so I was definitely all in on content, but the weird thing is, and a lot of people don't know this, but for my first million followers, I didn't really see it like a business, and I was so new to it. This is when I was 18 or 19 years old and still had business experience, but didn't understand a lot about business. And at the end of the day, if you're getting attention, you can monetize that attention, right? Which is something I look back now and probably maybe should have known, maybe not. But the first deal I actually got was for $300, and it was these contact lens, like these cool contact lens that you could wear. And it was $300. And I thought, oh man, I can get paid for this, $300, free money. Granted, and then looking back, that video probably did 400,000 views and I was getting severely underpaid. So I had those lessons learned. But I think the silver lining to all of it is, and this is a big thing that I've realized too. I'm sure you've seen this, Austin, but especially because my community is a little bit younger. I noticed that a lot of people are super focused on monetizing super early. But the thing I always share is that understanding how to get attention therefore will allow you to make money. So if you just go ahead, like a prerequisite to monetization is understanding how to create great content because therein is monetization because money is just views, right? If you have more views, you can most likely make money, considering you have the prerequisites to understand how to negotiate and get brands and things of that nature. So for me, it was actually, there was a silver lining to not monetizing because by becoming someone who is able to get attention, the monetization was a lot easier as opposed to what happens a lot now is that people get into social media and they're so focused on trying to make money that the real thing is like if you just become someone capable of getting attention, that will make you money. So not sure what your opinions are on that, but that's kind of something I've seen that's a trend now.
I completely agree. I mean, it also leads to burnout. There's so many content creators, even in our space right now, that are sharing AI tools. I mean, quite honestly, like we've got this awesome like Ossa group together. We'll jump into Ossa on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other
No
half.
way.
We can talk about that, but quite honestly, like I think a lot of these people are just riding this trend right now of talking about AI tools because there's potentially a lot of money to be made. And
Sure.
that's where burnout happens, that if you're only creating content because you think that you're going to get rich overnight, and you're not passionate about the content that you're actually making, it's just going to be a complete waste of your time. I mean, for me personally, like I've been doing social media marketing for 19 years. I saw a little bit of early success on MySpace, but then there was like a 10-year gap in between creating content and not seeing any traction at all.
Mm.
So my mindset was a little bit differently at the time, but I create content because I love it. Even if I, retired today, sold every company, had $100 million in the bank, whatever, I would probably still create content. I talk to my wife about this all the time, just because I love doing it. It's my productive procrastination. If I'm avoiding doing any sort of uh, productive work, I will just quick make a video because I just love doing it so much. It's not necessarily like, yes, I love the momentum, I love the traction, I love the money that comes from that. But it really is, like you were saying, understanding people, understanding the psychology, understanding how to create content that hooks them in, resonates with them, and builds that dialogue to build an engaged user base. Because money will come, but that can't be the single focused goal. I think you have to like doing it. You have to like the subject matter that you're talking about over and over again. Otherwise, it's not going to last. I mean, I hate to say it, but I would not be surprised if half the members in our group this time next year are no longer creating content in the space.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's actually something that I ran into. And right now, if you look at my profiles, I'm sure some people might listen to this and then they're going to go search me up. One thing I've been considering, I've gone through a very unique thing and would love to share it. And because I think it's really unique and it speaks to exactly what you're talking about. When I first started creating content back in 2018, 2019, I started off in fitness and I was really, really enjoying it. And for the first couple years, that was kind of the case. I just really enjoyed creating content. I was doing it. The Omegle videos were a blast. Then I started creating content with my girlfriend, and that worked. And in the beginning, it was a lot of fun. But what happened is that I got so caught up in trying to get so many views and portraying myself in a certain way on social media that I would be getting 1 to 5 million views a video, but it actually really weighed on our relationship. And this is something I don't talk about too much, but I think it's super interesting for people to hear, which is like there's this thing with social media that I dove too deep into, which is like the persona that you create and leaning too hard into what's doing well. And I got down this path, me and my girlfriend, but especially me because it's my content, of trying so hard to create content that would perform because I just understood it so well. It's like I would know exactly what I need to create to get 1 million views, 5 million views, and it would work every time. But I almost lost love for it through the process. So all the content you see now, quite honestly, is repurposed. You're gonna look. I'm bald right now on this podcast. If you're seeing the video version, if you're not, my head's shaved. And one thing I'm considering, and it's tough, right? Because I have my startup here, and that's where all my time's going. And I want to also create more content, but it's this balance between I know how much work it takes to shift the brand and the perception of who you are. Like it took me half a decade for people to say that's who Cole is. So it's probably going to take me another half decade for people to relearn who Cole is, who I am now versus who I became. So I think that's just a super interesting thing because during that process, I shifted back to creating some content where I was sitting at my PC and filming and putting words on the screen. And a lot of people were like, we want the old Cole back, which is so interesting. It's a really interesting case study. I don't talk too much about this, but it just kind of shows you that really all social media is, in my opinion, is just teaching people who you are and reinforcing that. And that's why consistency is so important. It's a psychology game. Is we're unknown and we need to become known. In order for us to be known, we need to consistently be in front of people and we need to talk about the same things until eventually when they swipe and see you, then it's like, oh, that's the guy who talks about this thing. That's the guy who makes me feel this way. But just like learning in general, I think that's how I look at social media, which is you're just teaching people what to think about you so that they become familiar. And that's why Austin does so well, is because he's been in the game for 2 decades. So it's like people stop and watch Austin because there's an expectation of the emotions they're going to feel and there's an expectations of the things he's going to talk about. But that was earned over decades of work of teaching people this is the value I have without them even realizing it. So really interesting like case study there that I went through. So I ended up going back to my content that I did because I'm like, I don't have 5 years right now to spend on rebranding myself, but it's something that I'm probably going to explore soon.
Yeah.
And also a caveat to that, The reason I kept doing that content is because I've been pumping in money to my startup. We're bootstrapped. And it was kind of this gauge of like, I don't think I can risk basically deprecating my old brand and restarting while I need revenue to come in to fund the business. But now since it's self-sustaining, it's probably something I'm gonna be entertaining really soon here.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. First of all, there are so many psychological aspects of being a content creator that aren't really talked about. Yeah, it's glitz and glam and sometimes, and there's
Yeah.
money to be made, and the vanity metrics are really cool, but it's also it oftentimes is very taxing. It can be taxing on relationships. It can also be very lonely to be
Yeah.
a creator as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I mean, for me personally, like um, going to conferences and networking with other creators is awesome because they understand the same things that you're going through on an ongoing basis. But then, like in your everyday real life, like your mom doesn't know exactly what you're doing. It's like that internet thing, or you go to a group like a friend's party, and they're all consultants or lawyers or doctors or whatever, and you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I create content and I'm a startup founder. And they're like, cool. I don't know anything about that, so I don't know how to talk to you. I don't even know what questions to ask. Um, what has your experience been in your real life outside of the content creation world and outside of other content creators that you know or that you've networked with? What has the perception been around all of this growth?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd love to share with you in the audience. I think one thing that is super difficult when starting content creation is that you have to be willing to put yourself out there, and it's not easy. It's really, really hard. No matter who you are, to some degree, unless um, you have a bulletproof mind, it's difficult to really start. And that's the biggest obstacle that I've seen. I grew a community of over 30,000 people in Discord, and the hardest thing for people is just to get in front of the camera and talk, which is crazy because in perspective, if I was to ask the people in the audience right now, what are the last 3 videos you consumed, you probably couldn't even name them, which just speaks to the fact that social media moves so fast that it's crazy how we lead to inaction, even though people don't remember us. The goal is just to get them to remember us. So if you can get someone to judge you and keep judging you, technically that's not a bad thing. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But first, starting off, to answer your question, it wasn't great. I mean, like I said, the perception was this guy does fitness. He's a tool. This guy is showing off, his progress in the gym. He must be a D-bag, your typical stuff, right? I'm unfollowing him. Look at this guy. He's so weird. That was like the perception publicly with like friends, quote friends, and old friends. The thing that was a little bit harder for me to overcome was that I was so passionate about social media and I really just enjoyed it so much. And I never, throughout the whole way until years, I never really got any support from my family. And that sucked because I have an amazing family and I love them to death. And they're incredible. I'm blessed. I have amazing parents, a very close extended family. But it was going to the family events, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the little remarks, and it was pushing so hard and doing so much and making my first deal. And I could tell you a story just to really show like the gravity of how much this really sucked. I remember the first deal I got was with a card game. It's Cards Against Humanity, I think. And I think they paid me 5 grand for this deal, which for me, that's still a lot of money, but especially then, like that was like crazy. Like it was my biggest deal ever. And I remember getting this when I was, I think, 19. This was after I got 1 million followers. And I remember, coming home and having dinner with my family, and bring it up to my mom. And at this time, I left school and then I kind of went back to school to do community college because I was trying to kind of please my parents and I didn't want to do it, but it was like, should I do it? Should I not? And I remember coming back and walking into the kitchen, walking through the front door, going to the kitchen and telling my mom, being all excited to tell my mom, hey, I just got this massive deal for $5,000. And the first thing she said, she's like, that's cool, but how are your grades? And it was like soul crushing because I was like, I've literally worked the last 2 years. I finally did what I said I was going to do with social media. Look at this. That's what I'm thinking. And the biggest lesson I learned through this whole process, I don't regret any of it, is that nobody's going to, you are your biggest supporter. And that has taught me the biggest lesson, which is that I don't need anyone to validate what I'm doing. I don't need someone to say good job. I don't need someone to say congratulations because the only person that needs that is me. And if I could know that when I started to really have that framework, it would have helped me a lot because it would have saved me a lot of disappointment of having expectations of others. And quite honestly, it's not even my parents' fault. It's not my family's fault, any of my friends, because it's my fault for having expectations of how they should act, right? Because the expectation, what I've learned, should be none. And that's been something that's actually helped me in my business as well, which is that having zero expectations for people to do things. Like people are just going to do what they're going to do because of what they're going to do. And it's like, it's no greater than that. So yeah, to answer your question, it definitely was a long road and never really got that validation that I thought I wanted, but it ended up being the biggest lesson I ever could learn.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I think that that resonates with so many people. And, to know that we're all dealing with similar problems like this, but we need to be our own champion. You need to celebrate every win to keep yourself motivated and focus on that next thing and not seek that external validation. I want to use that kind of as a loose pivot over to Asa now, because let's just jump in with what is Asa? What does it do? How does it help people?
Sure. Simply put, Ossa.AI is a text to video tool. So you can type in your script, just words. If you don't know what a script is, essentially the words that are being talked on screen. So I'm sure everybody knows when somebody sets up a camera and they're talking and those words on the screen, that's considered the script. So we take your script, whatever you type your unique script, and we turn that into an entire short form video. Specifically, the name of the type of video is faceless content. And what that is, it basically means in the definition, it's faceless. There's no face on it. So we take your text, we turn it into an engaging short form video to be posted to social media. And also, just for more clarity on definitions, a short form video would typically be a video, 60 seconds, sometimes a little bit longer. And it's a vertical video that you would see on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So our goal with this platform is to allow individuals to create engaging short form content and really just lower the barrier to entry for people who want to create amazing short form content. They want to tell their story because a lot of people don't want to be on camera. A lot of people don't know how to edit videos. So we're a video generator. So it sounds very simple and it really is. You come to the platform, you put your script in, you select a few parameters and then you hit generate. And then we do the job for you. And by we, I mean the code, which we've made. So we're a short form video generator that has really democratized the content creation process in terms of short form content.
And it really is a cool tool, guys. I've had a chance to play around with it a little bit, and Cole's shared some examples with me as well. It's awesome. It'll generate images based on that script. It'll generate the voiceover, the subtitles on the screen, the transitions. It really is a social media ready video. I'll have the link to it, of course, in the show notes of this episode as well. But how'd you come up with the idea for this, man?
Yeah, I mean, another quick story. We would have to go back to Q4 of 2022. I set out on a journey to start a business with, Brennan, the other bald one, who is my co-founder. And we set out, and he's an awesome guy. I'm super grateful to have him on the team and have him through this journey. But we've had a passion for helping people. That's how I met him. He's just a guy who's always willing to extend the helping hand. And one thing I've always been passionate about is giving out information, not gatekeeping information.
Mhm.
Really just being honest about what content creation is and trying to help as many people as possible. And that's what we set out. We set out to build a business to help create influencers at first and to build a platform so they could get more brand deals. And we spent 3 months on that. It failed. We pitched it to a big executive. He's like, we don't need this. And we're like, we didn't even validate the idea. Bummer. Done. Then we moved into growing a Discord community because I wanted to do like a paid Discord community, built it to 25,000, 30,000 people. And I wanted to just give out as much information as possible. And that's what we did. We didn't end up charging anything for the first 30,000 people. We'd have daily calls with 400, 500 people. It was absolutely crushing. People were motivated. They were blown up on social media. It was great. It was amazing. And that community was awesome. Anyways, we ended up building out the whole course and doing everything, building out the funnels. And then we thought to ourselves, man, I don't think this is it. So what we ended up doing was canning the whole idea. And the reason for that was because what I realized through that process is that this might work, but is it going to help as many people as we want to impact? And the honest answer was no, because the way I looked at it is while that might be a great business, and while I probably will be able to help hundreds of thousands of people. I can't really, it's going to be very difficult to help millions or tens of millions of people. Like, how can I help everyone? How can I give a tool to everyone? How can I take my knowledge and deploy that in a vehicle that has much more leverage to be expanded? And that's when I had the idea of, what if there was some way for us to take my knowledge and put it into something that's higher leverage? And somewhere along that process, as we're trying to figure things out, I thought maybe we do a content agency where we create, like, we automate content to some degree, we get all the assets, and then we hire people to put together and give out content. That could be cool. So we ended up building that because we thought, okay, well, people don't really want to create the content, so let's just create it for them. So we ended up building this whole automated process to generate all of the assets for a video. And then we were going to hire, employees to put it all together and then sell the content. And then I had this idea and I was like, what if we could take that step out? Like, what if we could actually automate the bringing of it together and put all these assets together and create an amazing video? So that took us down the rabbit hole of, well, maybe this is possible. And the best way I could explain it of how this even happened, right? Because if you end up using the platform, you're probably going to be mind blown and be like, how did that video just get generated? The way I look at it was like this. This was always kind of the theory and the basis of building this entire business. Everybody who's listening to this right now, you have a favorite cup of coffee, whether that's from Starbucks or Pete's Coffee or Dunkin' Donuts, and there's a label to that coffee. Maybe it's a Frappuccino with whipped cream, or it's a mocha with extra chocolate powder. But the thing is that we have this subjective thought of what is a good coffee. But if you actually look at it down to the micro of what makes it, it's all measurable. And I took that same approach to content creation. There's this subjective thing that people look at of like, that's a really cool, for example, maybe Austin's video style. You might say, I love that style of video of how he does it. But the thing is that everything within that video, it might be a subjective opinion of what is that style is great. I love it. But you could actually break that down and say, the reason you like that video is because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, thousands of reasons. I took that same approach to short form content creation and said, what objectively makes a good video, and put it into code. And how we did that was literally going to a Miro board and saying, what is every single step of the content creation process and what makes a good video? And how do we put that into code and let everyone access it? And so essentially what Ossa.AI became through that process was my subjective understanding of what makes a good video into code. So taking my knowledge of what originally I wanted to give out in that Discord and saying, let's put this into code. Let's find a way to allow millions of people to use it. So in a way, everyone who interacts with Ossa is tapping into my knowledge of what makes a great short form video. And that is in part of why the videos do so well. And I don't say that out of any other place than just saying, I have success from short form content. And that was always my goal, is how do I help as many people as possible have access to the knowledge I have? So I thought that was that vehicle of code and AI was the largest compounding vehicle and accessible vehicle that we could deploy my knowledge into.
It's awesome, man. How's traction been? And what are your long-term plans for it as well?
Great question. Traction's been great. So right now we're averaging around 200 signups a day, which is awesome. Obviously fluctuates, some days 400, some days 150, but really solid there. So traction's awesome. It took some time to kind of get things ironed out. And as you know, with the startup life, it's an ongoing process of, well, that free trial didn't work. Let's change that thing, or this is a bug. So a lot of it, to be honest, has been just learning and solving problems. But traction's really good. We're looking to ramp things up here really soon. We're just finishing up some things on the scaling, but really happy with where we're at in terms of user acquisition. So happy with that. Not a lot of complaints from the users. So that's amazing. People are loving the product, getting tons of success. In terms of what I believe this can become, the best way I could put it is that I think and you could probably agree with me, there's some massive companies out there right now that have lots of money, but I think they're missing the mark on what people really want, which is a really good video that they feel ownership over, but that also has high potential to perform. At the end of the day, you could make everything automated, but if the end goal is for the video to perform on social media, if you can't help them achieve that, the use case is very minimal, in my opinion, from a content creator standpoint. So as we continue to add more features and give more customizability to our users, I believe this will be the platform for short form content creation using AI. Like hands down, it will become over a long enough time horizon, because everything that we are adding to the platform is based on user control and higher quality of video, and most important, more potential for the video to perform. So it's almost like we're starting off with like right now, I would consider it a cup of coffee with no sugar and no cream, but maybe some whipped cream on top. So it's still really good. It's a good cup of coffee. But over time, we're going to make it this amazing frappuccino, sugar filled. I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but just amazing cup of coffee that everybody loves, because there's just so much to it and there's so much control that it's like that hits. And we want that to be the future of Ossa.AI in terms of, I want people to have so much control over the video that it's almost like CapCut, but you don't have to do it yourself.
Yep.
That's where I really see us going.
Yep.
There's a few other things. I think that there's potential over time. For example, HeyGen. So I know the founder over there at HeyGen. I know Josh. He's great. Also know their social media manager. I just met with one of their executives a couple days ago, and I think there's potential there for a partnership, because I think that would also take us to another level. Is people being able to clone themselves in HeyGen, bring their API key, and now anyone can be a creator, anyone. And I think that's missing is, and you probably know this too, is that it's like, it's one thing to make a really good avatar, but the thing that HeyGen really needs is that step two of, okay, you got them to create the avatar. What about the content creation side? That's the hard part. And you know this,
Yeah.
right? Because it's implemented with your platform. That's the difficult part, is how do you merge, how do you take someone from literally nothing to, wow, they're a content creator now? And I think that's the vision long term, is I want to be that outlet for the person who's never done content, and lower that barrier to entry so low so that anyone in the world who basically has an internet connection can now generate influence, because that's our mission statement, which is making influence accessible to everyone. And that's the big vision.
I love that, man. I align so much with that and everything that you said. Like, same here. Social media has changed my life, and I just want to provide the education, the strategies, the tools, so that it can change anybody's life as well. I think it's what it's all about, is empowering people to know and not be overwhelmed by all of the crazy things that go into creating content. Now with AI and software, it's just getting easier and easier. And yeah, I love HeyGen as a tool. We've had tons of conversations with Josh as well. They're cool people over there. But I completely agree with you that well, their tech is great, right? And it's fantastic. They're moving at the speed of light. They're getting mass user adoption. The technology is advancing at a crazy pace with different, the voice cloning is showing more emotion and more emotion in the face and body movements and the whole nine yards. But they're missing that before and that after phase of what actually is the strategy but behind creating a good solid content, and then what are the end goals as well? What do you want to get out of that content? Is it just virality, or do you want to use it to grow your business, gain traction, gain trust online, and build that loyal following? And there's, I think, a lot of opportunities of cross promotion and business collaboration between HeyGen, us, tons of other tools
Yep.
out there as well. So I want to dive, because this is a tactical podcast. I love to, rip the curtain behind and as much as you're willing to share, just to empower listeners. What are you doing to market it and get those 200 to 400 trials every single day? Are you leveraging short form content? Are you leveraging your Discord group? What strategies are you doing right now to gain all of that user traction?
Yeah. Great question. I would say, just as a precursor to give context, we're a really small team. So we're actually a team of three that are working specifically on the project. So there's other companies like NVIDIA who have 150 employees. We're a team of three doing this, which is really incredible, and just a testament to the people
Yeah.
that are working on this. The team's incredible. I love these guys. So first off, there's that. So the reason I give context to that is how I think about it is, this, when you're, a founder, you only have so much time. And the biggest thing that I had to ask myself is, there's so many different ways to market a product, right? Really, there's so many, but it's like, what's the highest leverage, but also the most affordable way? So the main acquisition channel that we're focused on is through short form content through creators. So we're doing an affiliate system. And for me, obviously very beneficial because I'm an influencer myself. I know the type of conversations that need to be had. I know how to connect with creators because I understand the psychology of creators and what they're looking for. So I can also solve problems for them, because I think one thing that has been really beneficial for us is, or especially for me, is being able to sit in the seat that I'm in and talk with creators and be able to actually understand if it's even in their best interest to be an affiliate or not. And also just understanding um, the problems that they have and the objections that they're going to have, and just having those real conversations. So for us, the biggest thing has been, obviously my socials have helped, but I realize that I'm just one person and it would be much higher leverage for me to operate with tons of influencers. So that's been the main channel that we've been focused on. We haven't moved too much into press and SEO. That's something we're going to be moving into these next couple months. But in the beginning right now, it's just getting more people to use the thing, getting feedback, getting more users, and learning who's using it, right? Because how I look at it is, before we do any paid marketing and go super hard on those things and know what keywords we want to have, we want to know how are people actually getting the most value. So for me, it's been this process of, okay, get the initial people in, no matter who it is, just get people to test it. And that was kind of our initial thing when we launched about a month ago. Was like, okay, we just need to fill these spots and let people use it. It's kind of a testing group. They get a huge discount. It's going to be people from everywhere. Now, as we kind of transition into month two, it's okay. I do not want to be the sole person who's getting everyone here. How can I create more leverage? Great. Probably through affiliates, because I know a ton of influencers. So that's the route we're going now, which is affiliate, organic content, short form content, specifically some long form content, newsletters. A lot of creators like myself, especially Austin, they have massive audiences that they already are talking about tools. So why not throw in another one? It makes a lot of sense. And you can make it mutual by obviously taking care of the influencers and giving them, a nice cut. And that's kind of the plan right now. And then as we kind of move forward, the affiliate's probably always going to be there. But before we really take that next jump into really establishing the brand, we definitely need a better understanding of who's using the product, what age demographic, why are they there, what's the use case, who's sticking, those types of things before we really jump the gun on spending money on getting press out there, because I want to make sure we're attracting the right people, right? So right now it's more so just mass adoption through lots of content. And what we're working on right now is getting more robust data on the people using it, so we can get a better understanding of how should we change that marketing message over the next couple months, years to come, so that we can attract the people that are worth the most to the company at the end of the day. Because we are a business, and we don't, for me, it's like right now it's kind of like we want everyone, but it's, in my opinion, that's not a great strategy to have, because you need to know who's using the product, right? So that's kind of the process that we're in right now.
Yeah, no VC, if you ever want to get into raising, wants to hear that as well. Who's your target demographic? Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no.
I don't want to hear that. Yeah, of course.
They don't want to hear that. But it's awesome that you're drilling into that, man, and doing user interviews and reiterating on feedback constantly, going product first, but also having that marketing background and short form background. It's a great uh, it's a great way to grow and scale a company. I also think it's brilliant. We loosely touch upon it. What you've done collecting a lot of us AI content creators and software tool creators in a we're in an Instagram group. There's 30 or so of us in there. We meet on Saturdays, and you've got this awesome little network group going on. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and how other people can potentially use that same strategy for their company. Maybe they want to get in front of some hyper targeted influencers and just chat with them and provide education and just provide an outlet for them all, either online or offline. Like we've done it online, but there's tons of like in-person networking groups that accomplish those same goals. So what are your thoughts on that? What was your plan and strategy? I think it's an awesome strategy if you could share.
Yeah, of course. I would say for any businesses listening, I think that there's this thing that's happened with influencer marketing that a lot of companies are missing, and influencers don't even know it's missing and they want it, which is the community aspect. there's never really been, I've worked with lots of brands, lots of companies, have lots of friends that work with brands, and it's so transactional. And I think the most important thing for if you really want an influencer to support your brand, if you want me to support your brand, if you treat me like a dollar sign, I'm probably going to do the same to you, right? And that was really the goal of building this community, was that you don't have to be an affiliate to be in this group. I just enjoy talking to creators in general. But I looked back at what I thought, what is missing for in the business relationship between influencers and the actual company. And I looked back at all the brands I'd worked with and thought, I honestly didn't really, quite honestly, give too much of a care to really taking so much time and having conviction behind these products, because I never really felt the connection with the individual or the representative at the company who I worked with. And there was a few instances where that happened, and I was much more willing to go the extra mile and to really care about what I was going to say. And I think that's totally missing in the content creation game. I think it's missing in the influencer game between brands, because it's always been so transactional. I mean, if you are a business owner, and you've probably noticed this, typically when you reach out to influencers, the first thing they do is like, here's my cost, or here's what it costs to work with me. And it's not even the influencer's fault, because that's what brands have been okay with for so long. They're cool with you just responding with, here's my rates, pay me. But the problem with that is, in my opinion, you've instilled no conviction in that person. It'd be like hiring a salesperson and not telling the story of how the company came to be, and not giving them reasons why the product's changing lives. That's how I looked at it too. So I have a background in sales, so I understand the importance of, at the end of the day, influencers are essentially becoming recruiters for you. And if I don't take the time to instill conviction on why it's so important for them to talk about this product, and I don't give them any value, why would I expect them to even care about what my product is? So to me, it's almost like it's just necessary. It's necessary to hop on calls and understand, what are their goals? How did they get here? Right? How could this work for them? Because how could I expect someone to talk about my product if I don't understand who they are? That, like, it's a human being that has their own brand. And it's especially been just out of respect for the creators being able, because just so everybody knows here, it's not normal to get on calls with creators when they work with brands. Matter of fact, it's normally just through email, and it's very transactional. And
Mm,
that's why a lot of the companies don't really get ultra value out of the influencers they work with, because they
mm,
just see it as transactional. And that's how I've seen it. And how we do it is, I have a whole CRM just for the influencers, and I send cold outreach, intro email. We chat for 20, 30 minutes longer if needed, just to get to know the influencer, tell them about the platform, learn about what they're doing. And then if they so happen to decide that they want to become an affiliate, then we'll do an onboarding meeting, and then we'll onboard them. We'll go through the entire agreement together, because that's something else that I think was missing, is that there's a horrible stigma around agreement. So if you just send an agreement through an email, the likelihood that an influencer is going to sign that is incredibly low. And every single influencer that's committed to the affiliate program has signed the agreement for us, because I go through it step by step, and I break down, this is why this is here, this is why that is there. Why do I do that? Because I have experience working with influencers, and I've noticed that I don't want to sign a deal if you just throw a contract in my face that has all this stuff. The moment I see something I'm unclear on, I'm not signing it. So it's necessary, in my opinion, right? So these little things, they all came from my experiences with brands. And people might wonder, how the hell do you get 25 affiliates to talk about, to talk about Ossa in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks? Because people might look on the outside and be like, wow, he has all these affiliates. Like, it must just be because he's an influencer, which maybe that's true to some degree, but also because I've spent hours with each individual, understanding who they are, forming a relationship, because I believe that's the real investment. So bringing it back to full circle, the reason I created this group was because, one, I think this has always been missing, and I don't want people to look at Ossa as just a tool that, a company that just pays the money to talk about them. I want creators to look at Ossa and be like, man, that's just a valuable thing. It's just brand in general, right? The associations that people will have with Ossa ideally are strong in its value, just because of that group. When influencers think about Ossa, they think about community, um, they think about value, they think about those calls, right? They don't think about, oh, like that's transactional. They paid me money. Like money's a byproduct, right? And I want to make sure everybody makes money when they work with us. But I think that's what's been missing in the content creator space. And I want to fill that void. Because with Ossa.AI, if I say making influence accessible to all is actually the goal, that doesn't have to limit to just users. It can also be anyone that works with us. I want to be able to give them ultimate value. And I figured creating a group and connecting creators and not forcing them to be an affiliate to be part of it, like that's actually representing what we stand for.
Well, love this. Was awesome, especially the. I completely agree about the agreements that brand deals will send over. I started using ChatGPT to go through the agreements. So I'll actually upload it and I'll be like, are there any red flags that I need to be aware of in this agreement? What are my responsibilities? What are the deliverables? How soon am I going to get paid? All it actually scans the document. So it's actually saved me quite a lot of time just using Chat GPT to, as an assistant to look through the actual document. Of course, always read anything before you sign it fully. But
Yeah.
that's been incredibly helpful for me as a little hack to move forward with some of that stuff. Because I agree, like I'm busy, like I don't want to read your 20-page document to make sure that everything's in line and you're not trying to sneak any shady stuff in there against me or like, whatever. Sometimes brands get a little fishy
Yeah.
with that. But this is awesome, man. Thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom, sharing your journey, how you got into content creation. You deserve all the success that you've had so far with Asa and absolutely will continue to have. It's gonna continue to grow. I can't wait to see how it evolves, both in just features, functionality, but as well as growth over the next year and a couple years as it goes. Thank you so much, man. And how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about Asa if they want to become an affiliate, if they want to just sign up and use it for themselves? Where's the best place to connect with you and to learn more?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say if you're, and I'm putting air quotes around this, but if you're some like a business professional, LinkedIn's really solid because it's a little bit less busy there. So you can shoot me a DM on there. You just look up Cole Gonzalez or Cole World and you'll see me on there. Socials, everywhere else is just at Cole World, COLEWHERLD. And then in terms of getting to Ossa, very simple. We're pretty fortunate that we have a solid domain. It's just OSSA.ai. So you can just Google it and it's going to pop right up in your Safari or your Chrome or Firefox, whatever. And then if you want to become an affiliate and you're an influencer listening, or you just want to connect with me, you can go to the bottom and you'll see a tab that says apply for the affiliate. And then if I end up seeing it in there, you can expect I'm going to send you out an email and we're going to chat. So that's basically how you could get in contact with me and in a few different ways. And yeah, if anyone ends up trying out Ossa.AI, I mean, I hope you absolutely love it.
Well said, man. And I will, of course, have all of these links in the show notes for you for easy access. And until next time, my friends.